And welcome back again. So today the subject of the video is going to be putting the timing housing on, and we're also going to rotate the cams and set the timing, and then we'll rotate the crank and get it at top dead center. And the next video we'll actually put the timing chain on. So without further ado, let's get started. So we have our bottom gasket here, which has a couple dials that locate it, and then we got a couple gaskets on top here. And if you look at the shape here and the shape here, they actually match. Now these here, these gaskets, they're actually identical. They're not mirror images of one another, even though they're a mirror image on the cam housings. So what that means is, on one side the silicone gasket is going the inside. It's going to go on the inside, that, and on the other side it's going to go on the outside, and that's normal. That's the way those go. Alright, so looks like that's lined up pretty good. And we just take our timing housing, put it up carefully, get in position, and it's set. Let's get some hardware in there, and I think my hardware is over on the side of the motor. So we got these lower bolts here, and we're going to use what's called a one-piece tensioner here on here. It's like this style here. There's a one-piece and a two-piece. I prefer the one-piece. I've heard some horror stories about the two-piece tensioners. So there's a special bolt that has to be used if you're going to use the one-piece tensioner. I'll show you that. There's actually a stud that goes in there for the two-piece. And then we have, it's a special bolt. It's a little more flat than the other bolts that goes underneath there, and that allows the tensioner to actually operate. And we get all these started, and then we're going to run them in. Okay, now these top ones, let me grab a small screwdriver here. Sometimes on these top ones, the holes will get misaligned a little bit. You can just take a screwdriver and line them back up. Now the top ones, I took the time to put a little bit of the gel style thread locker on there, because these are going to be behind the cam gear. I absolutely don't want to take a chance on those walking forward. So, get those started. The torque on these is 19 foot-pounds, which is 200 and, I have the torque wrench set, I think it's 238 inch-pounds. I have an inch-pound meter here. I have a torque wrench that drops down to 20 pounds, but you could probably torque them at 20. It probably wouldn't hurt it. But being that that's at the extreme low range of that tool, I don't really trust it. So I'm going to use the inch-pound torque wrench today. And if you can see my breath, it's only about 25 degrees out today. But we're bundled up good. There we go. Make sure that's seated in there. All the bolts started beautifully. Like I said, if this gasket moves a little bit and just rotates a little, just take a screwdriver in there and get it lined up, and that's fine. All right, let's take a second to tighten these down. Start up here. Just gonna snug them first. And having that 13 millimeter bolt, the bolt with 13 millimeter head on it in there, does mean that you have to switch the socket a few times, but that's okay. I'm hoping that my hand doesn't blur the focus on this, being that my hand is close on this side. So I think, let's see here, let's just get these in real quick. Hopefully this doesn't go out of focus. try not to take too long. I'm trying to do these in a crisscross pattern. Again, we're just going to snug these down. Nothing crazy. Now, if you watched one of the other build videos, I reused those gaskets. I cleaned them up and reused them, but I also put like a shellac type sealant on it, aviation permatex. And yeah, you can do that, but since we're using all new gaskets in this motor, there's no need for that. We do have the motor turned backwards 90 degrees so that whenever we put the cams in, there was no piston and valve contact. And I think we're ready for torquing this down. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here with this one. So I'm going to do this nice and quick. These uprights. Again, a crisscross. When you're using a torque wrench, you always want to kind of sneak up on it, nice and smooth. That's it, keep the wrench moving. You don't want to crank it real quick because that can lead to over torquing the fastener or under torquing it. So we want to double check them. These move just a little bit more. And it doesn't really matter which crisscross pattern you use there. And these are moving just a little bit. And let's check the other one. And you can see how quickly this goes. I'm not exactly hurrying, but I'm not exactly hanging about either. And those are all nice and snug. Not turning anymore. Those are all snug. Get the first one snug, then I'll just check them one time around. It's fine, and we'll be good to go. All right, now is whenever we get our timing sprockets on. Put those on. We have our dial, and this is our alignment hole, which the bolt goes through here and locks it in time. Okay. Then we have a bolt here that we put in. This bolt, I don't tighten this bolt up all the way. I'll bring it down with the ratchet. I'm not going to tighten it up all the way until I get both the gears in time and have the chain on and everything. That way, whenever you're torquing this bolt down, this goes to 52 foot-pounds. When you're torquing that down, not all the stress is on just this bolt to hold it in time. It's spread out through this bolt. So as I'm tightening this down, the chain links everything together, so it's both bolts holding it in time. Which is just a little safety measure in case one would just happen to fall out or something crazy. And it looks like these are pretty close to being in time right off the bat. And what I did, again, just snug like that, it's fine. What I did is I made a special tool. You grab it here. Yep. This is from an old cheap extension. Cut it off, welded it into a large washer, and then welded some pins on it. And that goes in here. And that allows you to rotate the gears easily. So let's get our alignment bolts, our little 8mm alignment bolts. And probably have to stick my head in there. I did. Okay, and then put the bolt in there. Rotate the gear. That should work. There we go. Until it slides in. There it is. That's in time. And this one, I have to rotate it back a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, gears are locked in time. At this point, we can take our ratchet and socket and bring the motor up to top dead center. And as I'm doing that, I'm feeling for any resistance, just in case there's something crazy that went on whenever the motor went together. If there's any resistance, I'd back that off, and then I'd have to start doing some detective work. So there it is. Now, before we put the time chain on, we'll have to put the water pump in. That's only 3 nuts on the back side, so I'm not going to film that. But next time you see this, we're going to be putting the timing chain and crank gear on. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.